interject this material in there.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, we had a guy on a really
just so you know, we are live.
Oh,
now.
we are live. Okay.
There's no pressure. Just don't say anything.
We had
live.
an elderly fellow on who had done all this stuff on vortex math. I think it was like using your forms and your body and all that. And then he said these Hollywood people came to his door and he gave him a bunch of stuff to make, like, I guess they wanted to make a film about his writing and his books. And then that OA came out. I don't know if you've heard of that series OA. There's that spiritual one where they do these sort of interdimensional travel through doing all these shapes with their hands and everything. And it's kind of a sad story in a way. It's like this guy's work got stolen by Hollywood.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And it was a really good show, at least the first season.
That happens.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, Darren, let's do this. All right, tonight we've got Joanne DiMaggio with us. She's a past life therapist and an author she's got incredible experience in esoteric and spiritual training. But the latest book is Edgar Cayce and the Unfulfilled Destiny of Thomas Jefferson Reborn, which examines all the reasons why prediction never happened, but also it's a very, very, very interesting story. So I won't really go back into your bio too much, Joanne, because it's like 2 pages long of all kinds of experience and training and organization. So feel free to talk about that as we go along, and I'll mention a little bit of it in the intro. So thanks for joining us.
I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to start off with my favorite part, because we've had authors on before where this pivotal moment in their life related to the book has happened through synchronicities or these crazy incidents like that cannot be true almost, I mean, and then of course I'm reading your book and I think it starts off with something very similar, right? I mean, an event that's life-changing in a way, and it leads to creative work.
Yeah. I first heard about T.J. Davis in 1987 when I first joined the ARE, which is the Edgar Cayce's organization, the Association for Research and Enlightenment. And a friend of mine who knew that I was interested in both history and in reincarnation topics said to me, "Did you know that Edgar Cayce did a life reading on a baby boy when he was just 2 days old, and he said that he had been Thomas Jefferson and Alexander the Great?" And I was like, wow, I'd like to talk to this fellow. So I studied his reading and I just became fascinated. And I contacted a few people over at the ARE to see if they'd introduce us, and they would not introduce us. So I kind of put it on the back of my mind that I probably wouldn't meet him. I think of myself as a reporter for the universe. So when I get an idea, a story presents itself to me, I'm like a dog with a bone. I've got to get it. I've got to get to it. I really wanted to know, what was it like growing up when you have the world's most renowned psychic of the 20th century tell you that you had been Thomas Jefferson? And not only that, but in that reading, he said, this soul can do for the world what Jefferson did for this country. And I thought, oh my goodness, how in the world did that affect his life? That's why I wanted to meet him and I wanted to talk to him just to do an article. But like I said, every time I tried to find him or reach out to him, I had one obstacle after the other thrown in front of me. And then finally, I moved to Charlottesville I grew up in the Chicago area. I moved to Charlottesville in 1995. Unbeknownst to me, he had moved to Charlottesville just, I think, a year or two before that. And out of the blue, another past life therapist that I had met who was working at the University of Virginia Medical Center said to me, called me, and he said, I told a friend of mine about you and she'd like to invite you and your family over to dinner. And I said, oh, okay. And then I got the phone call and she said, she told me your name, and she said, my husband, TJ Davis, and I would like to invite you to dinner. And so I was like, the universe has divinely orchestrated our meeting. And I remember thinking, this is just incredible how this all came together. So I went to his home and we had dinner. And at that dinner, he revealed to me about the reading that he had been Jefferson. I already knew that, but I didn't want to let on that I did. But he told me, and then we became friends after that.
Wow, that's fantastic. So did TJ, his name TJ, was it all, his name was TJ before the reading?
No, Mr. Cayce named him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He named him Thomas Jefferson Davis. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what else happened that first meeting? Did you get into it all, at any of his experiences or anything like that?
No, he didn't really talk about it at all. He was really shy about it. And I got the impression he didn't tell too many people about this reading. But what we ended up finding out later as we got to know each other was that it was our common connection to Edgar Cayce and the Cayce material that was the foundation for our friendship. It had very little to do with Jefferson, and he never really spoke that much about Thomas Jefferson. So I had said to him, wouldn't you like to share your story with other people at the ARE? I know that they would eat this up because, there aren't that many living recipients of a Cayce reading, because Cayce died in 1945. And he did this reading on TJ in 1936. So, as the years go by, there are fewer and fewer people who actually had a reading by Edgar Cayce. And so I said, not only did he have a reading, but he lived with the Cayce in the Cayce household for the first 8.5 years of his life. And the things that he saw there and what he learned from Cayce, who was his mentor and his teacher, was just so fabulous that I said, you've got to share this with people. He was a little reticent about doing it, but he did eventually come. I was doing these little conversations with TJ Davis evenings, and people were flocking. And it was interesting because his charisma was such that people would hang on his every word. He really was a big hit with people. And, he talked about all of his experiences living with the Cayces and what Mr. Cayce taught him. And I started recording those. And then I talked to him later about, this would make a really great book. And he said, okay. And he gave me permission to go to the Edgar Cayce Foundation archives. This is the vault where all of the readings are kept and all the files on each living recipient of a reading. And he gave me the permission to go there and to go through his file, which was something like 3 feet deep. And it took me 8 years of going back and forth and sandwiching in all the material that I could in order to come up with a chronological sequence of events in his life, and then put that in the form of a book that was just recently published.
Wow, that's fantastic.
In TJ's life?
It's it's on the years he spent with Mr. Cayce. That's the primary focus. The first half of the book, I go year by year, 1936, 37, 38, all the way to 45 when Mr. Cayce died. And then the second half of the book so the first half is all historic documentation that was taken from the archives and from all the letters that Mr. Cayce wrote and those around him, those in the circle, his Aunt Gladys, Gladys Davis was Cayce's secretary. That's how TJ got to him in the first place. TJ's parents were Gladys's brother Boyd and his wife Berlin, and then anybody else that would write to Mr. Cayce or who knew TJ by his reading number, by the way, which is 1208. So if anybody is a member of the ARE, they can actually go into the file in online and read his reading. So that it took that long to get this whole thing put together.
So TJ must have been pretty old, I guess, then when you were talking to him.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Is he still alive? So he must be pushing 90?
84. He's 84. He'll be 85 in June.
Wow.
Mhm.
So how did you guys said the Edgar Cayce connection was the thing that sparked right away. Can you expand on that? What was your interest in Edgar Cayce and how did that come to be?
Well, I first got interested in the Cayce material in 1987. That's the year that Shirley MacLaine's book, Out on a Limb, was made into a miniseries. I remember it was January. They ran it a couple of nights on ABC. And that was like my big wake-up call, because I had been studying, I'd been reading books about reincarnation as a teenager. But I was born and raised Catholic, so that wasn't exactly encouraged. So, but that always made a lot of sense to me. And after Shirley MacLaine's miniseries came out, she's talking about her own experiences with reincarnation. I felt like this was a calling for me, that I wanted to learn as much as I could possibly learn. And I joined the ARE. I was looking for like-minded people, like-minded organizations. Like, where can I go to find people who, I could talk to and not have to edit everything that I'm saying, and I could learn from. And so ARE was the answer for me. So I became a member and began studying the Cayce readings and the teachings. And eventually I went to Atlantic University, which is the school that Mr. Cayce started the same year that he started the ARE. And I got my master's in transpersonal studies through that school. And I've just been a part of it ever since. I've been actively involved with it. I head up a group here in the Charlottesville area. We do programs here. I bring in speakers from all over the country, keeping the Cayce material out in the forefront. And TJ, having been tutored by Mr. Cayce, we had the most fascinating conversations, and he just furthered my education in this area. And to listen to somebody who actually sat at the foot of the master, so to speak, was such a privilege to me. It still is. I think that he's still one of the most compelling speakers I've ever heard. He lives very much like a recluse, though. He lives up on a mountain alone.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and doesn't have internet access.
Sounds even better.
Otherwise, I have him on Zoom with me, but yeah.
I'd like to be able
He
to
can actually see Monticello. He can actually see Monticello, the Jefferson's home, from where he lives. If he goes to the top of his mountain, he gets his binoculars out. He used to say that he could look down at all the people visiting his old home, and sometimes he would get a little jealous and say, "Hey, that's my house. I should. Why can't I live there? Why am I living over here?" So it's quite fascinating.
So for people that aren't that familiar with Edgar Cayce's work, what were some of the cases that stood out to you when you first, or maybe not even when you first started with the organization, but even now that people might want to know about?
Well, Edgar Cayce was known for primarily doing health readings. He did 14,000 plus readings in his life. And out of those 14,000, 12,000 of them were health readings. So people were coming to him from all over or sending him letters because they had a chronic illness. And traditional medicine was not able to cure it or even address it. And Cayce would, go into this trance, and he'd connect with his spirit, his source, or the Akashic records, and then he would give them a remedy. And those remedies were so far ahead of anything that we knew from a medical perspective that we're just catching up now. I mean, you could still get the original recipes that Cayce gave in those readings for about any kind of illness or chronic situation that you might have. And so then all of a sudden, someone asked him a question, and he started giving them information about a past life. And it startled him because now Cayce was a very Christian man. He taught Sunday school. He read the Bible for every year of his life. And so for him to suddenly start talking about, a person's past lives, it threw him for a loop. And for 2 weeks, he quit. He wouldn't do any readings. And then he slowly accepted the whole concept, and started doing those readings. And that's how when TJ was brought to him, when Gladys brought him over, because they thought he was going to die. He had his mother was an alcoholic. And so the way he tells it, he was sloshing around in her womb in all this alcohol. So when he came out, he was like a piece of wood. The doctor said he won't live more than 2 days. So she wrapped him up, brought him to Cayce, who TJ calls the man of miracles. And then Cayce did a reading, a health reading. And, and he gave him the life reading as well about he gave him 4 past lives that he had. And 2 of those, like I said, were famous. So with the Cayce material, I really didn't get too much into the health readings. I've researched some of them, but I'm certainly not an expert on them. It was the life readings, those 2,000 life readings that he gave, where he was telling people about their past lives, that I found very helpful, because I pulled out information that he would give on, on karma or grace, or, the story of creation, or any of the esoteric kind of information that I felt would be helpful in my work. And so I have a whole library now of Cayce material, and I use it quite often in my work.
That's fascinating. So the past life healing thing's always been interesting to us. Like, I've heard so many stories about people, just the acknowledgement of a past life can solve some sort of health problem. So is the healing part of the past life regressions and the past life therapy a newer contemporary kind of thing, or was Cayce doing that in a healing aspect as well when he got into the life readings?
Yeah, well, he would combine them, because he would tell some people, the reason that you're obese now is because in your past life as blah, 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 you made fun of people that were obese, or you starved to death in that life. And now you're, needing to fill yourself up excessively. Somebody that was blind, he told them that they had blinded their enemies with hot pokers in a previous life. So it was really all about balance. It was about, you reap what you sow kind of thing. What I have found in my work, I did a research project on chronic conditions. I invited anybody that had a chronic condition that wanted to participate in a research project. I had volunteers, about 50 of them, and they came, and they had everything from diabetes to heart disease, a lot of limb joint issues. I had some mental health issues, alcohol, drugs, and arthritis was another one. And I did this study with all of them to see if when we uncovered the past life where this condition originated, would it create a spontaneous healing?
Yeah.
And in about 30% of the people who came to my research study, it did.
Wow.
So, and then I had a good percentage that had an improvement, at least. Oftentimes, if you just know the origin of what it is you're dealing with, like, where did this start? Where did this come from? Just knowing it creates a shift in your consciousness. You accept it, so your perspective on it changes, and that in and of itself is a healing. So, my book is called Karma Can Be a Real Pain. And in that I chronicle 25 or how many my publisher would let me put in that particular book. And that was really, really, really fascinating. I had one man who came to me, he had arthritis only in his thumbs, no other place on his body, just his thumbs. And when he went to his past life, found out that he was a soldier in the Civil War. He was on the Confederate side, and he liked to wield his sword, his saber, and cut off the thumbs of the Union soldiers so that they couldn't hold a gun or they couldn't hold a sword. And so now what happens? He's got arthritis only in his thumbs.
Wow.
So there was one story like that after the other that, and when I do these research, what I love about the research projects is that it's not me pontificating about, you should believe this because I'm telling you this. I'm letting people tell their own stories. And that makes it all the more credible. So it was a fascinating project that I worked on with the physical conditions.
Yeah, that's especially chronic ones, because they don't seem there doesn't seem to be anything in the medical community that can help a lot of this stuff. I mean, people go for months undiagnosed, years undiagnosed, trying all these different things, and it just doesn't work. So did that help his thumbs in that case? Like, did the acknowledgement of that help in any way? Do you remember?
I don't remember what his response was.
Yeah.
I had one woman who was having night terrors. She kept, she would wake every other night. She was a 71-year-old psychiatric nurse, and she would be woke up every other night thinking that she was in a concentration camp. She thought that this life had to take place in the Holocaust because she had everything that was happening to her fit that scenario. She was cold. She didn't have any clothes. She didn't have enough to eat. She was abused. She saw children being. I mean, it was just the whole gambit, the whole list. We found out that she wasn't in the Holocaust. She actually, that lifetime had taken place prior to that, but the circumstances were similar to what she would have experienced had she been in a concentration camp. And right after she found out that this is where it came from, she never had a nightmare again. No more night terrors. It completely cleared up. And she and her husband came when I had my book launch, and they came up to me, really sweet couple, and she had just tears in her eyes. She says, "I cannot tell you how much this has meant to me that that this is gone now, finally." And that's what past life work does, actually. It's not like your traditional psychotherapy where you have to go week after week after week after week. With past life therapy, usually one session does it, because it gets right to the heart of the matter, right to the origin of the problem that you're working on. So it's as a healing tool, a transformational tool, I haven't found anything quite like it.
Wow, that's fascinating. So is there times when people have multiple past lives with the same thing going on, like the same chronic issues going on?
Yeah, the pattern will repeat itself in subsequent lifetimes,
Yeah.
and until they realize what its origin is, and then they deal with the issue that brought it on in the first place.
Yeah.
So, so they're working on that karmic pattern from lifetime to lifetime.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
Have you got into any of the stuff I used to love? And I remember a few years ago trying to find someone on the show. I can't remember their names. There was a few people who were doing that past life stuff. But I always loved the stories of the kids, because, I mean, when my kids were younger, they used to talk about stuff all the time. Oh, when I was your dad, or when I was your mom, we used to do this and you were used to do that. And you take all that with a grain of salt, but there's all those stories of these kids that used to say stuff. And then these people have like tracked down this, and not famous people, just these rudimentary people in some town that got shot where this kid said he got shot. Have you looked into that kind of stuff at all with your past life stuff?
I don't deal with children. So I mean, I know about it because I've read enough studies about it. And I am here in Charlottesville where Dr. Ian Stevenson
yeah, I was going to mention
was at the University of Virginia, and he studied all about the past lives of children. So, yeah. But that's pretty common. I keep looking. I have 2 grandchildren under the age of 5, and I keep hoping they're going to say something, because that would be something I would just love to have a conversation with them about it, but it hasn't come up yet.
Do you think that lends to some sort of
soul family?
Well, I wasn't going to say soul family, just something about once we're adults and indoctrinated down our various paths, whatever that is, whether it's a religion or a science or just your parents saying, come on, that's fucking crazy. Do you think that sort of shuts that off? Or what do you think? What do you think the difference is between someone who can just recall that, someone who's able to recall it with help, or people that just, nothing there? Or is there any? I mean, I've never done a past life regression, so maybe there isn't anyone who's got nothing there. Maybe everyone has one. I don't know. Maybe I have one.
Well, children start to forget around the age of 5. And then the memory starts to get, because that's when they are actually getting more and more indoctrinated into the physical realm. We're all spiritual beings having a physical experience. And so they get settled in their little bodies, and then they're influenced by what goes on at school or their friends or their family. And, it starts to fade away. My grandson is 4, and he tells me about a friend of his called Bogey Bogo. And of course, nobody can see Bogey Bogo except for my grandson. So I sit there and talk to him about him, because I thought, well, that's his spirit friend. And I'm not ever going to use the term imaginary friend to a child. They're not imagining it. They actually can see that spirit with them. So I think it's really important how parents need to keep an open mind, allow them to explore. Surely not everyone is going to remember all of this, but we all have the capability of remembering it. We were all given memory triggers in our pre-life planning session. So before you came into this body, you were given some memory triggers so that, when they would come up, you would have a glimpse. Like, I also do like the resonance method of past life recall, which does not use hypnosis for people that are a little concerned about that. But you just play detective and you start to match up the things in your life now. What are your interests? What did you want to be at Halloween every year? What kind of books do you like? What kind of music do you like? What kind of culture? I've always been drawn to the 18th century. 18th century American history was like my wheelhouse. That was my thing. And that started when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And, that's one of the reasons I'm in Virginia now, because I followed a past life here. So those memories are there, but unless most people, I think, especially in the West, this is not part of their everyday thinking. So they can go through their entire life without ever even questioning that. They'll have a deja vu experience over and over again, but they won't question it. They won't say, well, I wonder why. Why do I feel this way? Why am I getting these chills when I'm, over in this particular location? Why do I have to go on vacation to the same place every year? Because I can't get enough of this place. There's all kinds of clues that we have. And when I do regressions, I will say that about 99% are successful. I do have a few where they have blockages and they can't get past them, so they can't see. But that might be because they're not ready to. So, but the majority, even if they come in and they're skeptical, like, I don't know if I believe in this or not. They all think that they're imagining it or they're making it up or whatever. But they're not, and I assure them that they're not. And it's been a wonderful tool. There's so many aha moments, where we're going through this. Oh, now everything makes sense, and I love it. It's very humbling for me to go on that experience with people.
What's that process like of going through a regression?
What's the process like?
Yeah.
From a perspective of the patient? From
a perspective of the patient, yeah. If like Graham was the patient.
Well,
is it like because you said it was non-hypnotic?
Well, no, the resonance method is non-hypnotic, but you also do the
I do the
ones,
traditional
right?
with hypnosis.
Oh, with hypnosis.
I call it guided imagery.
Right.
And all that is being in a state of total relaxation.
So that's not like you're not waving a thing back and forth in front of someone or anything like that.
No. And I can't make you bark like a dog or cluck like a hen.
It's more of a guided meditation type thing.
It's a meditation is really what it is. So I just get you to do some deep breathing, get you to relax completely. And I keep, the first part of the session is doing exactly that, is helping you to relax. I want you to get into that feeling, when you first wake up in the morning and you're lying in bed, your eyes are closed, but you're awake. You know where you are. You could get up if you want. You can hear things that are going on around you, but you're so comfortable. You feel so deep in that bed that you don't want to move. So that's the physical sensation that I'm going for. And we work on that. I use a visual of having people walk into a forest. In the forest, there's a bridge. They go to the other side of the bridge. When they get to the other side of the bridge, they're in the past life that is most impacting them today. Because we've had many, 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 many past lives, but you're not working on issues from all of those lives. So, so I'll take them to that. And then I'll start asking them questions, about what they look like. And then they tell me their story, and we go through the death scene as if they were watching a movie. And then I ask them the important questions of, what's the last thing you were thinking as your soul left your body at that moment of death? Because that often sets up the next lifetime. I had a woman who came to me, she had head to toe psoriasis. She wanted to know the source of it. So she went to a past life in which she was a call girl in the Old West. And when she died, her last thought was, I don't want to be touched anymore. So in this life, she manifests a skin condition which nobody wants to touch her.
Wow.
So that's why I say, so we go through that, and then I'll ask them, what do you have in common with your past life personality? Are there any parallels or behavior patterns? And then are there any people from that life that are in your life now? So I do several different types of regressions. They're all on my website, by the way, which is JoanneDiMaggio.com. If people are interested in doing a regression on Zoom, they can go on my website, read about the different types of sessions I do, and then just book it.
I was going to ask if they can do it and book it on Zoom and do that.
Yeah. I gave up my office when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I've been doing them on Zoom ever since. And I have found actually that doing them on Zoom is actually better because people are in their home environment and they relax much easier.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So
and you can tape them.
Yeah, there you go. You can record them too.
Yeah, I give them a written transcript.
The resonance for you in the 1800s, is that because you think that was that lifetime more important to you than all the other past lives you had? Like, why would one resonate more than the other? Or is there some people that have multiple ones that resonate the same, that kind of thing?
Because there were issues that came up in that life that I decided before I became Joanne in this life, I decided, that's unfinished business. I have to finish that up. I have to finish. I think of Earth as a school, okay, and that we have a curriculum, and we're working on this curriculum, and those are your karmic issues, and we're working toward resolving them, healing them, applying them, whatever, to get them over with, get them out of the way, done. Because once they're done, you don't have to deal with them ever again. So the issues that I was dealing with from that life were acceptance and approval. That were two of the issues. And so I came and designed this life in which I would have to work on those issues. So I chose my parents with that in mind. My members of my soul family came forward and said, we're going to come in with you and we're going to work on those issues with you, and somebody said to me once, I think it was another past life therapist that I was working with. And I was told that about 85% of who I am today is the result of that one lifetime. I had brought that much baggage with me.
Oh yeah. Right. Okay.
This life. Yeah. Which I think is the other reason why I wanted to be a past life researcher and therapist, because I wanted to understand my own journey so that I could help others. And so I worked on that past life a long time. I mean, it was that strong that it compelled me to relocate my entire family from the Chicago suburbs to Charlottesville, Virginia. They came kicking and screaming, believe me. And I didn't want to say to them, mommy is looking at healing a past life. But no, now, I mean, that happened. That was in 1995. So, I mean, they've forgiven me since then. I actually turned out to be the best thing we ever did. But anyway, that's how strong past life memories can be. It will compel you to if you're really getting into it, that you could, make some very drastic decisions and change your life. And as it turned out, I started meeting people here that I knew from then. And on a soul level, we were connecting. And it was, that's a book unto itself, believe me, if I ever decide to share that with anybody.
I was just going to ask you about that, about the soul family, and how do you help people connect with their soul family, and how does that work? Like, how can people, we've heard about it quite a bit, I think, but how do you figure out who that is?
Well, we travel together as a pod. So we're with the same souls from the beginning of creation. When we first came into a physical body, we've been with the same group over and over and over and over again, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So they know us pretty darn good. They just know all of the buttons to press. They know everything we're working on. And what happens is we come together again in a life, but we change our gender and we change our role. So your mother in this life could have been your husband in a previous life, or your sister in this life could have been your father in a previous life. Or, we come in as friends. So we make the decision to come in together in that pre-life planning session. There's a lot that goes on when you're in the afterlife between lives and you're planning the next life, and you're going, okay, for my curriculum, I'm going to work on X, Y, and Z. And then you choose your parents, so that the parents that you choose, you know the environment that you're going to be born into. The socioeconomic status, you're going to know your race, what religion you'll be brought up in, what part of the world you'll be living in. And our soul family comes in and they'll say, okay, I'm going to be your grandmother and I'm going to help you learn unconditional love. That's my job in your life. And so all these souls that are in your life, and they could be relatives, friends, teachers, mentors, they have a specific role that they signed up for to help your soul reach the, finish up that karmic issue, because they want you to move on. We all want to move on. And so they come in and they'll present challenges to us sometimes, and we won't like them very much when that happens. But they'll also come in as a support system. So when you know that they're doing what they're doing because they love you, it's on a soul level, you can start to learn to forgive better about what's going on in the physical end of it.
How many people are we talking about here? How many souls together are we talking? Like 50 or 100, or is it like?
It depends. They come and go. I haven't had anybody ever give me a number of how many. But you've got the ones that are really, really close to you, and then it spirals out.
Okay,
and people, yeah.
You might, when you bump into somebody that you think you've known already, maybe he's on the farther end of the spiral, you might have bumped into him in a couple lives, but you weren't super close.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you must have, actually sticking on that for a bit, if you don't mind me asking a kind of a little more deeper or esoteric or sort of secret question. Have you heard about
secret question? The
bloodlines and the elite kind of like planning their lives in these long games? Like, let's say somebody that runs a country in Europe or something like that, or like he's an elite. Just for this example, and they plan. They know that they're going to be reincarnating into the same. They try and reincarnate into the same bloodline.
Are you talking about Charles?
That very rarely happens. I studied Dr. Michael Newton's material because he's really the expert on life between lives, and I address this when I do my talks. It's very seldom that you come back into the same biological family.
Even if they intend?
And in some cultures, they do believe that you do.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you don't, because think about it, that would really stunt your growth. And, it's important that we experience life in all different countries, in all different races, all different, ethnic backgrounds, poor, rich, whatever you can mix it up. So, like my family's really into ancestry.com. And I told them, I said, you got to do a lot more than swab your cheek to find out what your soul's journey has been. So yeah, I mean, like, I know that some of the indigenous peoples believe that they come back. I know in Asia, they believe that. There's all kinds of stories, like you were mentioning earlier, about children. A lot of them, like in India, they'll remember being so-and-so, and they'll be able to find the family, and then they amaze them by telling them things that nobody else could have known, except for the person that had died. So yeah, there's that going on, but by far that is rare, and the most people are just go into a completely different biological family.
How have you noticed in the last couple decades? I mean, since this, you joined ARE in the late 80s type thing, and I mean, there's been a big shift in sort of materialism and the acceptance of other realms and unseen worlds and psychics and past lives. I mean, I feel like, because we've been doing the show for now 8 years, coming up on 8 years, and I feel like it's really opened up in the last, 8 to 10, 15 years. I mean, I know, I was kind of interested in this in the 80s and the 90s a bit too, but I feel like it's really sort of come into its own. Have you noticed a big shift?
Yeah, because I'll tell you the truth. The most people who come to me now are asking the same identical question. Why am I here?
Wow.
I don't know why I'm here, especially during COVID. Like, why am I here during COVID of all times? I mean, couldn't I have picked a better time to be here? Well, no, you deliberately, chose to be here now. And there's a reason for that. There's a lesson in all of that. So, yeah, it's becoming a little bit more mainstream than it was when I started, but it's still not mainstream enough where I don't feel like I don't openly share, like with my neighbors. I don't really tell them what I do,
Yeah.
But I belong to Unity Church, and I can freely talk about it there without any hesitation. And I am getting clients from like all over the world, and they're all seeking. They're all. It's really quite beautiful to watch the desire that they have to understand their journey better, the journey of their soul, to understand that their soul is immortal, and that it just we change our bodies. Like, if you have a car and you maintain it for year after year after year, eventually that car is just, you can't maintain it anymore. You're going to have to trade it in. And that's what we do with our bodies. So if you think of it that way, it's a little bit, it makes a lot more sense. I think reincarnation makes sense. I think that the idea of a just and loving God is more representative in the theories of reincarnation, with karma, cause and effect, rather than sin, because like I said, I grew up Catholic. With sin, go to confession, tell them what you did, say 10 Our Fathers, 10 Hail Marys, and that's it. It's over with. That's not the way karma works. So, sooner or later, you'll need to address that issue. And everything that we ever think, say, do is all in the Akashic Records, which is the universe's supercomputer.
Yeah. So
there's no getting away with anything. It's all there. And it's all available to us. It's not like it's being hidden away and we're not entitled, or we have to be somebody special to be able to get this information. That's not the case at all. It's there for everybody.
it's in the cloud.
It's a, yeah.
Cloud, that's right.
Hopefully we don't get cancels. How does what if you want to, is there any way to sort of, because obviously there's the healing aspect of it, but what about just sort of
knowledge?
Well, optimizing knowledge, I guess. Like, is it stuck to Earth? Because is this where channeling starts to creep in? Maybe where people say they're seeing other planets, or is it only humans, or is it going in between species and stuff like that?
Well, Edgar Cayce said whatever is begun on the earth has to be completed on the earth. We do travel to other planetary systems in between lives, or when we're finished here on earth, when we've finished every single course we could possibly take, we've learned everything we could possibly learn, don't need to come back anymore. We're free to go elsewhere. Many souls who don't need to reincarnate anyway, because they want to come to the earth and they want to be of service. They want to help. So they'll come back again when they don't need to. I have had less than 5 people in the 34 years I've been doing this work who have said they're from another planet. And they're pretty much talking about their loneliness. But that just does not happen often. I've had a couple of people who've said they're from Atlantis. They had lifetimes in Atlantis or Lemuria. But mostly it's just your average, Jane Doe and John Smiths who have had, hundreds of lifetimes here on Earth and are still working on it and want to know, why are they here? What's their soul's mission? And then when they find out, it frees them. It frees them to make changes in their life or decisions. I get a lot of healers coming to me because they say, I feel like I'm a natural born healer and I want to be doing healing work, but something is stopping me and I don't know what it is. We go back, and sure enough, they were a healer in a prior lifetime, but then they were persecuted for it. And they see themselves out in the forest and they're gathering herbs and they're looking over their shoulders because they're fearful that somebody's going to see them and snatch them up and then hang them or burn them at the stake or something like that. And that memory is so strong that it sticks with them. It's a subconscious memory. And when they go to do the healing in this life, they run up against a brick wall. Something inside them says, oh, no, don't you do that. Because things could go very, very wrong if you do that. And so by uncovering the origin of it, it releases it for them. And then they're free then to go and pursue what is a natural talent for them, a natural talent, the ability to heal. And so, and so in that way, it helps people do what they're here to do. And like I said, for me, to facilitate that with someone is a very humbling and gratifying experience.
That's great. What about maybe we should circle back to the book a little bit and didn't you have another encounter with TJ like after a few years, a chance encounter in a way that sort of reinstigated everything?
Yeah, we when I initially met him in 1996, we ended up going. We were friends for a while, and then our personal lives started to take us in different directions. He was going through a divorce. I was in almost a near fatal car accident, and so I did not see him for almost 9 years. And then I had taken classes at Atlantic University, and I decided I was going to, because for 3 years I didn't do anything esoteric, metaphysical. I gave away all my books. It was basically a near-death experience, but I didn't realize that that's what it was. But one of the symptoms of a near-death experience is that you lose all interest in anything that had gone before, and that's what happened with me.
Right.
So I'm trying to fight my way back. 3 years to the date of when I had that accident, I woke up and then I was back to being the person I was 3 years earlier. But by then I had dismantled my past life research organization. I had not renewed my membership in ARE. I had given away all my books, and all my esoteric friends, my like-minded friends, were gone. So I thought, I've got to find my way back. So, so many people will say Edgar Cayce saved their lives. And in this case, he saved mine for sure. So I enrolled in Atlantic University, got re-immersed into the Cayce material. And then I started in 2008 2009, I started to do ARE programs at our local Unity Church. So I would bring in speakers from all over the country to talk about the Cayce work. So I was, we would get anywhere from 30 to 120 people at these things. Anyway, it was in the Venture Inward magazine, which is the magazine that the ARE publishes for its members, that I was the contact for Charlottesville. And TJ saw that and he called me, but he didn't remember that I was that same Joanne that he had known 9 years earlier. And so he called me, and then he called me a second time, and he was laughing, and then I guess he put two and two together. And then I told him that we were doing a program on near-death experience. This was on a Friday, I think, and we were doing it the next day. And he came to that program, and but he left before I could connect with him, and he left me a message as he was going home, and he said, "I have to tell you, Mr. Cayce must be really proud of you for doing this work." And he said, so then we rekindled our friendship, and then we had long conversations about, doing this as a book. I felt that he was maligned in many ways, because so many people really believed that he was going to save the world, as Cayce predicted. But if you go and you read the reading very closely, Mr. Cayce said he could do those things provided that he was raised a certain way, that he had a certain education, that certain things happened. And of course, that didn't happen. His parents didn't do what Cayce had suggested that they do in raising him. And when Mr. Cayce died, TJ was only 8.5. He was supposed to get a second reading when he was 13. Of course, he didn't get that. So his parents still didn't take care of him. He was still living with his Aunt Gladys. But at that point, it was all hands on deck to try to save the readings after Mr. Cayce was gone. And so he got thrown from pillar to post, and he didn't get the guidance that he needed to fulfill this prophecy. In my opinion, I think what Mr. Cayce was really talking about was that TJ would share the Cayce material with the world.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with Thomas Jefferson. I think the fact that when he says he was Thomas Jefferson, people would just hang on him because they get starstruck, and they would listen to him. So he was the kind of personality that would have people sit up and take notice, because he has said to me over and over again, he said, "Joanne, I can solve all the world's problems. I know exactly how to do it." And I said, "Really? Well, why don't you share that with us?" And I think and he said, all the answers that we need are in the readings, or in the Cayce reading. So I really think that was the trajectory that Mr. Cayce saw for him. But free will kicked in, and his soul went on a whole different path because of the decisions that primarily his mother made for him. So, could he have gone on the path when he got to be 18 and he said, "I'm an adult now, I can follow my own guidance"? Yeah, he could have. He didn't. So that's what we talk about in the book, is about how a soul, you can be lofty, you can be a Thomas Jefferson, but that doesn't mean that your next life you're going to be equal to or higher than that, because we go up and we go down, we lose and we gain, we lose and we gain. And so this was just a story of love between Mr. Cayce and this child. Because you could see how much they love each other in the pictures that I have in the book, and the hours that they spent together, and the lessons that Mr. Cayce very carefully taught this little boy. He didn't teach that to his own children, but here he is with little TJ, and pouring all this wisdom in that little vessel of a child, with this great hope that he'd be able to share it. And he still can. It's not over yet. I tell TJ, if you would just get out in front of the world and start to talk, you could change a lot of lives.
Huh. That's interesting. So did he had quite an interesting life anyways, didn't he? I mean, did lots of different things, lots of traveling. I mean, interesting synchronicities. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the Marine Corps, and after the Marine Corps, he just started traveling, and a lot of his travels took him to countries where he had conquered when he was Alexander.
Wow.
So a lot of past life stuff was coming up, not only for the Alexander life, but also the Jefferson life. And I talk about all of the things. One of his stories that I really, really love is when he was I think he was a freshman in high school, and he was not a very good student, and he had to take a final exam, and it was in history. And he realized when he read the question that he didn't know the answer. And so he sat there and he thought, I've got to write something because they'll fail me and I'll have to repeat this grade. So he said he sat there, he said a little prayer to the universe to get some help. And he said he wrote out the Declaration of Independence and the Statute for Religious Freedom for Virginia, word for word. And he hands it into the teacher and he says, here, this is all I know about history. And she was flabbergasted and she was angry with him. She says, you are so ridiculous. And so they suspended him while they looked into this, but they realized he couldn't have cheated because he was sitting right in front of us. So they ended up passing him. But he has stories like that all through the book that I think people would really enjoy.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Do you think there's any way for people before they die to prepare themselves to remember their past life a little better? Like, I can't remember where we talked about this, Darren, but we had a discussion.
You got to write it down and eat it
about,
before you die.
We had a discussion about that, like prepping yourself, or if you can become aware earlier or know more about your past lives in the next life.
I thought you ate it, the paper.
I don't know that you can do anything. I mean, you can, in your pre-life session, you can maybe, try to make that awareness, work that out with your guides. I think it really depends on what culture you're born into and whether pursuing that study would be encouraged or frowned on. I don't know why I was so fascinated with it, but I think it's because I was supposed to do the work. Like I said, in the East, this is common. I think more so than not that they remember or they accept the theory of reincarnation much more so than we do in this country. And mostly in this country, it's because we feel that it's going against our Christian religion. Although, you could have a whole show about that, about how reincarnation was in the Bible, originally was taken out. So Jesus taught reincarnation. I mean, there's books about that that are out there. But I think that's the primary thing, is because there are no religions that I know of. Unity will let you talk about reincarnation. But even so, it's not like everybody believes in it in the congregation. So I'm usually cautious about it. But like I said, with my grandchildren, I'm encouraging them.
I'm going to make my grandchildren, in my will, I'm going to task them with tracking me down again.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. You'll be with me again.
Before we wrap up, you want to touch on the letter that TJ wrote back in 1970 that he asked people to judge him on, and why you sort of saved that for the end of the book?
Yeah. He wrote a letter to Harmon Brough. Harmon Brough wrote a book about Mr. Cayce called A Seer Out of Season, The Life of Edgar Cayce. And in that letter, he said, if anybody wants to judge him, I'm thinking that if anybody wanted to judge him, to just read that letter, because I felt this letter was the true essence of TJ, not the version of him that so many people were judging him on. And if you read his words, you can see all the hope for the future that Edgar Cayce saw in TJ when he was a baby. I just thought it was a beautiful, beautiful letter and very fitting for the end of the book.
Great. Well, this has been a fun chat.
Well, me too. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I love how we explored all your other stuff about past
Maybe
lives.
we've done it before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Repeat.
And I might contact you for a reading for some friends.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So we can just do that from the website, right?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
gonna get a
My
reading?
JoanneDiMaggio.com. It's
Okay.
JoanneDiMaggio.com.
Okay.
And I have all the different types of sessions that I do, including soul writing. I teach soul writing, which is a written form of meditation. I add that to some of my past life work. So you could read about that. And there's some blogs on there that are interesting, some case studies. So I just had it redone during COVID and brought myself into the 21st century where things could be done online rather than the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
really,
yeah, your site looks good. It looks good. I was checking
Thank
it
you.
out before the show.
If Graham does a past life regression, would you record it for me and sell it to me?
sell it to you. No, I don't sell it to you.
Oh.
If we do it on Zoom, I'll give him permission to record it. But I always do a transcript. And I send a written transcript of of the session. And the reason I don't record them on a regular basis is because Spirit always erases my recordings. I don't know why, but I gave up. I figured they don't want me recording any of this, so I give up and I just do I'm old school. I could take shorthand, so I could keep up with you.
Oh, is that really? Is that what you do? You just take notes as we go along?
I can't
yeah.
even
Wow.
read my own notes.
I think so. I've done group past life sessions before, and I've done and something came up with me the year 1010, I think.
Wait,
and
is that what we did at Jay's that time?
No, that was different. That was medium. That was like mediumship. And I have this chronic left arm injury that I broke. I broke my left arm when I was 5, and I think it was from holding a shield back in the Templar days. Like it goes back that far.
Of
course he does.
You never know.
This guy is
Yeah.
convinced he's a Viking.
No, I was not a Viking in then, but maybe I was, fighting Vikings. Maybe that's
Maybe
what
you
it was.
fell on the path while you were running away from Vikings.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I've done single past lives as well. But it was really tough for me to realize was it real or was I imagining it? Just like you said, it just felt. But there was a few of those, and that was back in the 90s, late 90s, I think. But Darren, maybe you should do it this time.
Do what?
Have your past life read.
Was I always an Indian, you think?
No, change race and
Surprised.
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I
It
will.
works for everybody, so almost everybody, but
But I thought I was getting told about a past life at Jay's house.
Oh, you might have been, but I don't remember that. She was
I
bringing
don't remember either.
other people into our
She lost
circle.
me.
Yeah.
She lost me.
But good luck with your book.
But you did not lose me, Joanne. This has been fantastic.
Yeah.
thank you so much. I've enjoyed every moment.
Yeah, right on. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, we'll
All
be
right.
in touch soon for sure. Thanks, Joanne.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that was a chat with Joanne DiMaggio. What'd you think, DiMaggio?
Yeah, DiMaggio.
I
Yeah.
f-
I like the soul writing part too. That's kind of reminds me of the artist way. My mom was doing that for a while.
Feng Shui?
The artist way.
The artist
like it's
way.
forcing yourself to write a couple pages or a few minutes every day, and I think it brings out your creativity and gets you to release a bunch of stuff because it's hard. I mean, imagine sitting there having to write 2 pages a day.
I used to
of
do,
anything.
for a while, I used to do the 3 gratitudes every day.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
I used to
do-
even like go one step further and do them like about people I was especially upset with.
That's good.
Now I
Find
don't,
something you're grateful for about that.
yeah.
About them.
Yeah, I don't do it anymore. I feel like now I can just do it. I don't
Yeah.
need to write it down
Yeah,
anymore.
but that's a
I
good
kinda
start. But
live.
that's probably because
That's
you were
how I
writing it
was
down.
able
I
to
mean,
transition. I forced myself to do it every day when I wake up miserable. And now I just don't wake up miserable anymore. And I feel like I live in a state of being grateful
Wow,
most of the time.
come a long way.
Other times I'm like, fuck this shit. This sucks.
I think it was this morning or yesterday morning when I woke up and I was like, oh fuck, because I was dreaming. I've been dreaming a lot lately,
Oh boy.
and
It's your dream world
and
is
I've been,
better than
I've
real
been
life.
starting to record them. I'm starting to record them, and I went to bed after the snooze button, and it came so fast, and I kind of swore. I was like, oh fuck, and I rolled out of bed, and I thought, no, I'm not gonna start like that. And I said a little prayer, God, please help me to stay clean and sober again today, and I kind of just got out of that negative state. I really tried to okay, I'm gonna start that over.
Yeah.
And it helped.
I can't
You can start your day
remember-
over anytime.
I can't remember the last time I got out of bed miserable.
Wow.
Hmm.
Good for you.
I go to bed earlier and I don't watch TV. I'm sure that plays a role.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wake up with a headache if I eat too much ice cream.
Wow.
I'm thinking this milk is a problem.
Wow.
It's the one thing I can't ever get off. I just love that shit so much. It's so good when it hits your lips.
Maybe you got to look into your past life on why milk is so good,
Maybe I
but
used
it's
to be
so
a
bad
cow.
for you. Yeah. We should have asked about the animals. Maybe you're.
Because I like mushrooms too.
Yeah.
I was a sacred cow in India. All right, guys. Big thanks to Joanne for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you are one of the 1 in 100 Grimerica listeners that chooses to support the show somehow, some way, so whether it's over on the Patreon page, patreon.com/Grimerica, whether it's just, if you just go to our support page, grimerica.ca/support, there's a Stripe link, there's a Patreon link, there's a PayPal link, there's a cryptocurrency link. Honestly, it'd just be PayPal's easiest, but cryptocurrency is cool too. It's all good. If you're going to support us, we're not going to complain about how you support us. If you can find it, if you're getting some value from the show, I think this will be like 46, 47. We're really creeping up on 500 fast. And if those shows are adding some value to your life, you decide how much over at contrary to popular belief, this is not a free podcast. It's a value for value podcast. So you're supposed to listen to it, decide what it's worth, and then send that back. Grimerica.ca/support. Maybe you spam Graham with some content.
Yeah, send me some stories, some synchronicities, some feedback, some trip reports, some sightings. Graham at Grimerica.com.
Some nudes. Graham at Grimerica.com.
I'm on Instagram.
Yeah.
Darren's on Twitter.
I'm on
Kinda.
Twitter.
We're not really on
Grimerica.ca/chats, because that's where we self-host our chats, and that's where the coolest people hang out. And yeah, support the show. We really need you guys to be supporting. We'd love you for it. It's how we pay the bills. It's how we keep things going. If you just can't bring yourself to support the value for value model, okay, I get it. Well, I don't really get it, but I'll just put myself in your shoes for a minute. Maybe you need to get something for your money that isn't free. Maybe head over to Rokfin, check out that premium content there over at rokfin.com/Grimerica as we slowly, completely transition away from YouTube. Check out Grimerica Outlawed.ca, where you can get access to our other free podcasts, which has another members section for it. Or you can head to the swag store, Grimerica.ca/swag, buy some kick-ass clothes and shit. And we don't have hats yet, but there's tons of cool stuff over there.
And adultbrain.ca for audiobooks.
Yeah, The Secret Doctrine is officially out. You got those Audible
Is it
credits.
out?
It's out.
Like, it's out in
available for
Audible.
sale.
Secret Doctrine's out in Audible. Wow. Secret Teachings is coming, which is another tome. And Secret Societies of All Ages and Countries, volume 1 and 2 is out.
Yep. If you head to adultbrain.ca, click on the links. They're going to take you over, and
To
you can
Audible,
get these books. If you just want to go into Audible, search for The Secret Doctrine, search Graham Dunlop. That'll pop up. And anytime you buy those books that we published, The Secret Doctrine, the Esoteric Alphabet, all those ones on Adult Brain.
All the Grimerica ones.
All the Grimerica ones, the older ones that we've republished, all of those, throw a couple bucks in the Grimerica account. So it's another way to support the show. And we'd love, if you're getting audiobooks and you want to listen to them, check them out. I think that's it.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. All right, thanks for tuning in to the live show. Hey, Blake, Matthew, how are you?
Thanks for tuning in live.
We had some people on Rokfin, some people on Facebook, and some people on YouTube. Thanks for tuning into the live show. We appreciate it. Grimerica.ca/support. We're back, next Tuesday? Tuesday. Because today's Wednesday. Oh, motherfucker. Next week's Andy Wakefield.
Oh, yeah.
So what do we got? We got this Saturday, we're recording 2 global warming episodes with Randall.
Climate change, yeah.
Yeah, climate change episodes with Randall Carlson for Outlawed.
And then Tuesday we have Dr. Andrew Wakefield and Micah Dank.
Excellent.
Illuminati hand signs. And then the next week after that we have David Icke and Gareth Icke and Jim Lee on climate change.
And then I'm out of here. No. One more show after that. No. Yeah. No. Yeah? No.
No, that's it. After
That's it.
generally. No, we haven't booked that. We haven't booked that yet. We got to book. We can't book Wednesday then, right? We have to book Tuesday that week, or how are we going to
But
do
we
that?
can't book Wednesday.
We should probably just take that. We should probably just do a couple. I don't know what we're going to do. We'll have to
We
figure
could do
that out.
Monday or Tuesday. We just can't do Wednesday night.
Okay, let's do Tuesday then that week.
Me and the kids are all off.
Oh, okay.
We're all off
Okay.
all week, so
Okay.
a couple hours ain't a big deal.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the live show. We will see you next week.